Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is the basics of Diag, and today we are looking at a 2008 BMW 330D. It's one we have done a couple of jobs on before. There's an ABS fault we've looked at. There's a link up here. We also looked at a smoking issue on startup and slight rough running. That's up there if you want to see this. And now we have an engine light and an increased emissions warning in the central display. I've never seen that before on one of these Beamers, so be interested to see where this goes. And in all fairness, I have already started looking at this. I wasn't going to do a video, and then I decided, yeah, go on then, we may as well. So there's going to be a couple of codes in there we can ignore because I've got stuff unplugged because it's half stripped out at the minute, ready to go back together. So let's first confirm the fault as best we can anyway. I can't start it because I've got the throttle body off, EGR valve off, boost pipe off. But yeah, we can get kind of an idea of what's going on. So in here, we wait for it. When it decides it's going to turn on. Engine light there, might be irrelevant. Increased emissions there. I've never seen that warning before. So that is the complaint of the owner. So let's get scanning it. I've got this little Diag Mini that we're going to use today. So let's see what it tells us. Okay, the light's gone blue on the dongle, meaning we've got Bluetooth connection. Oh, we're attempting Bluetooth connection. Yeah. We'll do an auto search. It's usually quite good, this little dongle, for auto reading vehicles. Now originally I used my snap-on Modus Ultra that I've got to scan this originally, and I found there was no active tests. Ignition off and wait 10 seconds. Yeah, there was no active tests for the component I wanted to test. So kind of didn't really help in that sense. There wasn't this. We'll just look at the codes before I start kind of explaining what I'm thinking, or so to speak. Right, ignition back on. All that info looks right. It's auto, 330D, right-hand drive. Apart from the country, so we're obviously Great Britain. We'll do a health report, which will scan all modules and interrogate them for fault codes. Now, there was 3 fault codes in the engine management originally. I've just noticed there's 4 now, and that is obviously going to be because the throttle body is unplugged. I'm going to go to report because I've seen a code in the ABS, and we sorted the ABS last time around, so I'm intrigued at what is going on. Yeah, this is my brother's car, so anytime there's an issue, yeah, I get roped in. So terminal 50 starter motor, yeah. So the engine fuel filter, that was there. Smooth running controller, that was there. Exhaust gas recirculation control deviation, that was there. And the throttle valve actuator was not there. So, what's in the ABS? Brake pad wear. Okay. I don't think there's a warning on, but we'll do a full clear now. So, we'll go out of the report. We'll go actually into the ECM. With this Think Diag Mini, we have no option to do active tests or any sort of service resets or like adaptation resets. It's literally just code scanning, clearing, and being able to view live data. But as I said, there was no active tests for EGR valve anyway, so we're not really hindered by using this little dongle. So yeah, emissions or increased emissions was the warning. So this fuel filter fault code has been present since I have been working on this car, or since my brother's owned this car 12 months ago. That isn't causing this warning to come on. However, our smooth running controller and EGR, in my mind, they could be the causes. So really, I mean, obviously in an ideal world, both faults need fixing, don't they? I am chasing the EGR fault because, well, it's going to be cheaper. I did fit 2 fuel injectors to this maybe 10 months ago. I think it was cylinder 1 and cylinder 6. But obviously when I did the leak down test, there was, well, to be fair, most of them needed replacing. So we did the 2 worst ones, and then the plan is to replace 2 more down the road, because I think it was almost £600 for 2 injectors, and obviously being a 6-cylinder, it's going to be 1,800 quid-ish to replace all 6 at once. So yeah, we just did the 2 worst ones. But it is starting again to have extended crank. So I might need to. I recorded my leak off test results, so we'll just probably pick the next 2 worst ones and replace them. But yes, I've gone down the EGR route. So let's look. I can't start it now. So let's look at some data. If we go general, I'm just going to select all. To be fair, there isn't much data available. There was only 20 lines there, wasn't there? So we've got air mass, but yeah, there's nothing for smooth running. I mean, sometimes, what have we got in here? Select all, there's probably been out in here. Yes, so that is about that. So there was no values for smooth running control or injection correction. Different manufacturers name it something different. It might be deviation, but it would have been nice to see that, and then we could see which cylinders were either having to over or undercompensate fueling wise. There was no data for EGR, but the EGRs on these don't have a position sensor. They're not electronically controlled, they're vacuum controlled. So all that we would probably see for EGR is maybe a solenoid activation value. So it's really, we're sort of a bit of old school diagnosing. So obviously the first thing I did was get to the EGR valve, use the Mitivac and pump some vacuum into where the pipe goes on and see if I could see movement of the valve, which we didn't. So I'll show you that now. In all fairness, what I should have done first, whilst the engine was running, was stick the Mitivac in the vacuum pipe to the EGR valve to see if it's got a good vacuum, but I just wanted to get in and get it done. Right, so we're doing a bit of Diag from the passenger seat. So here's the valve. I've got my Mitivac obviously on the vacuum line in. And I'm just gonna pump the Mitivac up. Try and watch the gauge and the valve at the same time. So you can see, hopefully you can see, it's not holding pressure to start with. Which means yeah, the valve just will not stay open. I can't pump this fast enough to keep that valve open. I mean, it will move, so there's a leak in here somewhere. And then if we compare it to a new one, here's one I prepared earlier. Oh, genuine BMW. I didn't even know that. I know I'd ordered a Pierberg one. Didn't realise it was going to be stamped with BMW. Nice. Wow. Impressive. Price. I've priced a new one of these, Pierberg, with my local motor factors, and it was 120 something pound plus the VAT. I've been on eBay and got this. GSF Auto Parts or Auto Store. It was £92, including VAT. But there was also a voucher code. eBay had some voucher code on, so I got 18 quid off. So it was only £72. So, yeah, bargain. Cheaper than an injector. However, injectors are probably going to need doing anyway. So, yeah, let's Mitivac this, see the difference. We'll fit this, put it back together, and then we'll see the vacuum that's supposed to be, oh, the vacuum that we'd measure at the pipe to this, pipe to this. And then what I want to do is look at the air mass and then use my Mitivac to open the EGR valve and see how much the air mass drops by when this is open. Be interesting to know. Handy to know as well for future reference. So yeah, let's do it. Right then, here's the new one. Again, Mitivac plumbed in. We're just gonna watch the gauge. Now you can see it started to move there. And it's holding, and we're at, what are we at? Minus 45 kPa. And that's it, fully open. Fully open, and we're minus 70 kPa. So from that, let's just see. So that's fully open, minus 60 kPa-ish. So from that, we know that the vacuum pipe to this EGR, we should have at least minus 60 kPa. If there isn't, then this valve is never going to open fully. So I need to reassemble it, and then we'll check the vacuum. Obviously, this should have been done before I had the part in hand, but I don't know what it is about doing relatives car. You kind of just, I don't know, just skip steps of your process when you shouldn't. You should just treat every job as like a genuine customer. But yeah, this is where we're at. I think we're still going to have some useful information here. So let's, yeah, get it refitted. So we've got the Mitivac plumbed into this EGR vacuum pipe, which disappears under there somewhere. Got the gauge kind of pointing at the windscreen so I can see it. I'm just going to start it up. I haven't cleared any cords or anything yet. I just want to make sure we've got decent vacuum. And there we go. So that is, oh, I think it went down to about -70. It might not like the fact that when it's obviously pulling that vacuum and opening the EGR, the mass airflow isn't changing. It might not like that. So obviously it's flicked down once to try and activate that EGR. No change occurred, and then it's just turned it off. But we could clearly see there that it pulled enough vacuum. We know how much vacuum it needs to open fully because we used the Mitivac to open it fully, and we read it was about 60 or 70, -60 or 70 kPa. If you've never measured vacuum before, that is a nice little indicator of how quickly it should be building the vacuum. I was surprised the first time I measured vacuum on a pipe with a gauge. Anyway, usually, you know, you maybe put your thumb over it, yeah, it's sucking, but that isn't a good enough indicator as to whether that vacuum is being pulled quick enough or strong enough. If there's a slight leak and the needle's kind of, it's getting there, but it's getting there slowly, you know there's an issue. With this, I don't think there's an issue on this vacuum system, so I'm going to reconnect it. I'm going to clear all cords. I'm going to go for a little drive, and we're going to hopefully have got rid of that EGR cord. However, as I mentioned at the start, there is that smooth running issue, which is normally injector related. This car's done 183,000 miles, so it should be on its second set of injectors now, going into the third set, because what did the last 80 to 100,000 miles usually, I think. So yeah, but I would imagine it's probably on its original set from factory. But yes, clear everything, road test and report. I'm actually I've put the pipe back. No, I haven't put the pipe back on. I've plugged my Mitivac onto the EGR valve. Well, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, and we're going to open that EGR valve fully whilst watching the air mass through the scan tool. So I just need to establish connection again. We'll just go straight into engine. Continue, read data stream, general, actual air mass, specified air mass. Okay, so specified is 330. Now, air mass on a diesel is mainly used for checking EGR operation. So with the EGR closed, all the airflow is going past the airflow meter, you know, through the air filter. When the EGR is open, some airflow comes from obviously exhaust gases, you know, through the EGR cooler, through the EGR valve, and then into well, it could be inlet manifold. On this one it is into, yeah, the EGR's on the inlet manifold. So we lose some air mass measured through the air filter because we're getting some from the EGR, and that will be reflected in the data reading. So our actual air mass is right where it should be. It's bobbling around, you know, 480, 500, 507. So if we just average it at 500 milligrams per, I don't know what hub means, milligrams per stroke is usually what you see it in. And you can work out if that is the right value by timesing the actual air mass by the number of cylinders. So 500 times 6 would be 3,000. This is a 3-litre engine, so the actual air mass is around about right for the size of engine, or the capacity of the engine. The specified air mass, it's obviously expecting that EGR valve to be open, which is why there's a drop. If we had some data for the EGR solenoid, we might see a particular amount of activation, but we haven't got that. So what we'll do now, I can't video me pumping, but you'll be able to see by the actual air mass value change. We're just going to open this EGR valve. There we are. So I've pumped minus 70 kPa into that EGR valve now, and we're about 200 milligrams per stroke. So it isn't requesting it to be fully open. If I let a bit of pressure off, that was too much. So roughly there, where I pumped it to now is about where it's expecting that EGR to be. And then if I let all the pressure off again, we go back up to 500 milligrams per stroke. Right, I've cleared all the cords now. I haven't recorded that, there was no need. I'm just going to go in again and scan, so just the fuel filter fault. Obviously I haven't driven it anywhere yet. What I want to do now, I have plugged the EGR vacuum pipe back onto the EGR valve. I want to see whether the actual air mass and the specified air mass match. I think they're just about, the actual is kind of all over the spot there. Is it struggling to maintain a sort of constant position? And also, we know it's not going fully open, is it? Fully open was about 200 milligrams per stroke, but it's fluctuating quite a bit. Now, if we really wanted to get all Diag and anal and into it, we could scope the airflow signal wire, airflow meter signal wire, do that same test with the MITI-VAC, obviously measure the frequency. I'm assuming it's a digital air mass on this. Measure the frequency of the air mass with it closed, and then measure it again with it open, see what the difference is. If you're into that stuff, let me know in the comments. I'm going to do it off camera for now, but if you want to see that kind of thing, then I will happily put it in a video. For now, this needs a drive, put some miles on it, and see whether we get that emissions, what was it, increased emissions warning back. There's no lights at the minute, but again, we're just idling. So If all is well, you'll hear no more from me. If not, then yeah, we'll have to rethink, won't we? I'm a little bit concerned about the massive fluctuations in the scan data for the air mass, but we'll have to see what happens. Okay, you are hearing from me again, but the car is so far so good. I just forgot to do a little bit of a outro type of thing. I like to kind of recap, I guess, what we've done, any lessons we've learnt or things we need to bear in mind. We got the fuel filter fault code come back. As I said, that's been there since the owner has had the car. It has never caused any warnings to come on before. I don't think it is the start of any warnings on the dash now. So yeah, the owner's just, if it's not causing a problem, it doesn't need to be fixed type of attitude. We had 2 fault codes, both of which could potentially cause increased emissions, that smooth running fault, and then the EGR. It's entirely your choice, I would think, which one you go after. What I should have done maybe was clear the faults, driven it around a bit. As soon as the warning comes back on, code scan and see if one or the other fault is there. But again, being a relative's car, you kind of get a bit lackadaisical, I suppose, don't you, with fixing it. You just want to get it done, and I guess you more use your gut rather than your head. But if it was a customer in a workshop, you would need to just communicate with them that there is 2 potential faults that could cause the light that you have. Obviously the EGR valve was the cheaper of the 2 to rectify, so maybe you go down that route with them. Injectors are expensive, especially when there's 6 of them. But yeah, there wasn't much to do with data on this because it's old school. But yeah, vacuum operated EGR, no position sensor, no motor. We just have the solenoid somewhere which was buried. So again, maybe this was the easiest fault to get to the bottom of. You could maybe put that to the vehicle owner. It's going to be cheapest because parts are cheap. Time to get to the part to test is cheap. I don't even know where the solenoid is for the EGR. I think they clipped underneath or on the side of the inlet manifold. I can't remember, but not easy to access. So I think with this one, we did get a bit lucky. Obviously the EGR valve was faulty, but we weren't thorough at the start, checking it had good vacuum. I just took a punt and yeah, didn't spend the time to check, when really, I mean, it took me less than 5 minutes to put the gauge in the, well, probably less than 2 minutes, put the gauge in the vacuum pipe, start it up. Yeah, it's giving us a good vacuum. Yeah, and then at the end, we got, I guess, good reading of EGR, of mass airflow with the EGR closed. Then a reading of the mass airflow with the EGR fully open, and it dropped. Well, it dropped more than half the milligrams per stroke. We were at about 500 milligrams per stroke, and it dropped to about 200. So we had a 300 grams per stroke drop of airflow, which in all fairness is more than you would expect when you look at the EGR valve and it's only opening maybe this much, and it's got sort of what's the diameter of it, and you compare it to the diameter of the intake pipe. Yeah, I was surprised, but it is what it is. It's what you need to look. It's why you need to look at known good values. Yeah, EGR can be hit and miss. work, at least with the auto fix, on a lot of VAG stuff, you can go into active tests while the engine is running, look at live data, and you can activate the EGR. You can see the EGR position sensor, so you know whether it's closed or open. You can see the mass airflow and see if any changes are happening. With a lot of other brands, that isn't possible. So you've either got to rely on the vehicle opening and closing it itself, in which case you'll need to look at the same data, EGR position, mass airflow. Obviously with this, as I've said, there was none of that, so it was, I guess, a bit old school. But yeah, anyway, that is it for now. Ooh, it's going to be back, isn't it? It will be back. Who knows when, but yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.